Hey, what's up, friends? Gabe here with Branded Barrel. Just thought I'd give you a little update on what's going on in the tiny home. Working on a couple things today that I think you might find interesting. I'm putting in a vinyl floor, which is pretty cool. And I'm going to show you some of how that goes, and I wanted to show you how I do some of my extension jams and how I turned what was going to be tossed out as junk wood into something really cool. So, I wanted to show you the kind that I'm using here. This is an all vinyl. Some of them are laminate. I would advise to stay away from laminate because the center of them has got a core that could, if it gets wet, it's not going to hold up. This is all vinyl flooring. It's Manor Hill, made by Shaw. It comes in 7 inches by 48 inches planks, which are easy to figure out how many you're going to need. And this one's Barnwood Oak, which I really think is turning out pretty cool. I like the kind with the texture on it. I like the kind where the seams don't have to be perfect. There's a little bit of a profile on them. And really they just snap together super easy, and it goes fast, and it makes quite a difference. So here's what a piece looks like. They have this kind of a vapor barrier on the back of them that adds some cushion to the floor. It's like a black rubbery cushion. And then they have a profile on the edges, and they all click together. The side with the bigger tongue you put out to accept your new piece going in with the smaller tongue. And I think it makes it a lot easier that way. I've had kinds that the end profile click together and then you put the board down. This one, actually, it goes pretty simple. You slide them up next to each other, and then you take a mallet and a smooth piece of wood, like I got a piece of Ipe there, and I just hammer on it, and then it clicks this seam together, which goes really smooth. So on this floor here, I'm just past the doorway to the bedroom, and I'm going to just lay a few pieces so you can see how quickly it goes. One of the key things you want to look for is, look at the patterns too. Make sure that you're not doing something side by side that looks just like the piece that you laid down. So that's something you really want to look for, because sometimes in the batch, there'll be boards that look a lot like each other. So, you want to slide this end in, and you keep it up and then slide it down until it's butting into the other piece, on this particular flooring anyway. You do that. Grab the mallet and the block, and over here where the seam is, until it feels completely smooth. And that piece is in. Do a few more. Slide it down. You can tell when it's in all the way, it wants to lay flat. This one here, there's nothing to click to on the edge, so I can just put it in. You may have noticed that I have these shims along the wall, and the recommendations from the factory are a 1/4 inch spacing off of all the areas, because it is a floating floor. So I just take some shims, cut the real thick part off till I get to about a 1/4 inch. So everywhere I'm going around all my seams, there's a 1/4 inch gap on everything. And it just lays out so fast, looks really nice, makes a big difference. Okay, so this is just a closer look at how this snaps together. I'll try to do this with one hand as best I can. This end right here, it's got kind of a small edge. It slides into this, over the top and down into and under until this is tight. And one of the things you can see when you do it is you just sort of tilt the piece up at a bit of an angle and go along. See how that end's not in there? And then as you go, kind of wiggle it all so that it fits together, and then I slide it down to where it butts into that piece. And if you've got everything sitting right, you see this thing's sitting up right now. That means that something's not quite all the way in. And one of the things I'll do, so I'll grab my block, I hit it just a little bit and it immediately laid down flat. So I can come back here to this seam, and you can't really tell, but there's a little bit of an edge here. And I would put my block over this and then just give it a few whacks, and that will seat this really nicely. And once it's together, you want to be sure, because once it's together, it's really a difficult thing to get apart. One of the other things I wanted to show you was my extension jambs. So I made each one of these extension jambs individually as a box for every window, because the depth of them was slightly different on every single opening in this thing. Measure that all out, get a distance. I usually do my sides as full height up and down, and then subtract 1.5 inches of my overall width that I want, and then do it that way. And then you can see on the top, I pocket screw and glue mine together. Makes for a much stronger extension jamb. So this wood here, I was on a job, and the siding on that job that we had to tear off to put new siding on was old cedar board and batten. And the boards were 12 inches wide by 1 inch. And I was like, there's no way I'm gonna toss this stuff. So I more carefully pulled, because all the nails were ring shank, I more carefully pulled all the nails that I could get out of it. And then I ripped them down into, once I got them home in the shop, I ripped them down and I did what's called skip planing, where I went over the top of the weathered side of the board, because the backside looked like brand new. Backside looked like that, like brand new cedar. And so I skip planed, which means playing enough to leave some character, until I was happy with each board of the type of character that was showing. And then I took the rest out of the backside so that they were all the same thickness. So it's a little bit painstaking, because you've got to look at each individual board, but then you can really gauge how you want your character to be and get a more even character. Skip planed with just clear coat. You can see that it's kind of orange. And so I was like, that's just a bit too orangey for me. I wanted something with a little deeper tone. And this isn't stained perfectly, but I put some early American on it. I didn't waste the stain to try to get it in deep there. I'll do that with the other pieces, but this piece here is early American stain on it. And I just think that there's a richness to that. And this is where the batten was. So the weather deteriorated this part of the board. The batten kept the board underneath it newish. So really kind of a cool look, I think, if you like that kind of character. Doing a bunch of the trim, I'm going to use this as the baseboard down here. So that's why that was there, looking at it, to cover up my 1/4 inch gap. And I think it's going to look great. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you like it, hit the like button, subscribe, all those things. Anyway, have a nice day.